Very thankful to introduce the brother that's going to do the devotional this morning, Brother Bradley Hicks. I appreciate him and appreciate the work that he's doing in the Lord. I pray the Lord just be with his ministry and just direct and guide him, and I love him very deeply. And if you have the opportunity to meet him personally, you'll find a faithful servant in the Lord. And I'm so very thankful for Brother Hicks, and I'd like to turn service over to him.
I want to start by thanking the Lord for allowing us to be here tonight or this morning. We're thankful for the services that we had yesterday at Unity. Sometimes we get in the ministry and we have difficult times and we struggle and our churches struggle. And then you get in a service where God's there. And it reminds you why you try so hard. This morning, before I go into my devotional, I'd like us to remember what Brother Mike Reed brought yesterday, because it's important. And I prayed for a long time and wanted to address something about our future, the next generation, and the Lord didn't allow me to do that. But I pray this morning that we would remember what he had to say and take that devotional back and listen to it, because I want this school to be just as full 25 years from now as it is today. I want us to have people that are so hungry for the gospel that we grow and exceed this place right here. I pray that God would do that with us. But I hope we'll remember his devotional yesterday. If you have your Bibles and you'd like to turn in here with us, we're going to try to take a reading lesson from 2 Corinthians, starting in the 12th chapter. The 12th chapter of 2 Corinthians, we're going to begin our reading in the 5th verse. It says, "Of such an one will I glory, yet of myself I will not glory, but in mine infirmities. For though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool. For I will say the truth, but now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he seeth me to be, or that he heareth of me. And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong. I am become a fool in glory. You have compelled me, for I ought to have been commended of you, for in nothing am I behind the very chiefest apostles, though I be nothing." That will conclude our reading this morning. And the title that we'd like to put on our devotional this morning is More Capable but Less Able. You know, in our day and time today, it seems like that we're producing more and more young ministers that are more capable from the appearance of things than what it seems like I've seen some of the other older brothers. They can get up and they can speak so fluently and so well, and they take public speaking courses in college, and it just seems like they feel like a natural behind the pulpit, or they're more financially able to support themselves. They're very capable of doing that, or we're more educated, or we think we are at least, or we have more resources that we can do. But today, just because we are capable doesn't mean that God is going to be with us. And what we need isn't to be more capable, but what we need is the power of God to be with us. Sometimes as a young minister, you feel very pressured to be accepted by the older brother. And you just feel like whenever you get up to preach, that everybody's looking at you and they're judging. Is he a capable young man? Is he ready for the next step? Is he ready for that part? But we don't need to be thinking upon those temporal thoughts of man. But what we need to be looking at is that whether our ministry has the eternal fruits of God. You know, there was a prophet in the Old Testament, and they were looking for a king. And at first glance, he saw a young man that was capable. And his name was Eliab. He looked upon him and he said to himself, certainly this must be the next king. But you know, sometimes the people of God are even wrong. Sometimes, you know, it seems like that all of us we strive to have the strength of Eliab, the strength of a warrior, when what we need to be in God's army is the heart of a shepherd. You know, as Samuel was looking there upon that man, he saw somebody that looked capable. But in just a few days, who is the one that slayed the giant? You know, to have success in the ministry, sometimes we get up and we preach. Have you ever preached a good sermon? I mean, you just got up and you got done preaching and you thought, wow, that was good. And then there's no eternal fruits to it. You know, that bothers me. You know, I was preaching at a church not too long ago, a church that's not one of ours. And there were some people that didn't like me very much. And one Sunday they came up to me and they said, I really enjoyed your sermon this morning. And I went to the Lord and I said, Lord, what's wrong with me? Why is that type of a person enjoying what I'm having to say? They are as far from the Lord, they're as worldly as can be. I don't even know if they're saved, but they enjoyed what I have to say. And sometimes it's very tempting to get up and you want to be seen as capable, but usually when we are less able to reach the throne of heaven than we will ever be. It seems today that we have a great polarization growing in our ministers. Some of us are, and I want to clarify something. I don't think there's anything wrong with being educated. It is absolutely essential that we use this book, that we use every resource that God will give us to study. But the problem isn't that we have those things, it's that we're trusting in those things. Jesus taught the disciples and He said, lay not up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth does corrupt and thieves break through and steal. Jesus wasn't telling them don't have a savings account, don't have a retirement, but what He was trying to tell them is don't trust in your retirement. Don't trust in those things. You need to lay up for yourselves treasures that will last for eternity. We have this great polarization, it seems to be, where there will be some ministers that will get up and just give such a doctrinal dissertation, and it just rattles your mind of how wonderful the words they're speaking and how true it is. And it seems like we have others that just get up and preach, and it's called, I guess you'd say, I read in a book one time, sensational sermonizing. Just get up and preach as hard as they can with all the passion they have. And brother, if we go too far either way, we're making a mistake. There is a middle ground. You know, a couple of years ago, there was a teacher here that said that the growing polarizations in our society are rubbing off on us as ministers. And that is one of the most dangerous things to us today, is that whenever we see something right, we just run too far to it. It's like whenever you're driving a car and you get off a little bit, you just overcorrect. We don't need to be guilty of doing that. We need to be educated. We need to be able to speak where people can understand us. You know what I pray when I get up to preach? Lord, don't help me to have all these eloquent words. Help me to be clear so the people can hear in their hearts what you showed me in my studies. And so many times it's much richer in my studies than it ever comes out of my mouth. As I get up to preach, sometimes I view it like this. Like there's a veil right here. And there's a group of people right here, and I can see all what's there, what the Lord showed me. But they can't see it. And sometimes I just burn within me to want to tell them what's on the other side. Oh, and so many times I fail. You know what I love to see and hear? Just as after Jesus' resurrection, those men on the road to Emmaus. What did they say after Jesus got done talking with them? Did not our hearts burn within us as He spoke to us on the way and opened to us the Scriptures? Oh, that's what I want when I preach, is for all the people that are hearing, not to see an eloquent speaker, not to see somebody who's educated, but just that their hearts would burn within them to be closer to the Lord. That's what I want. Don't strive. If you're here and you're a young minister, you know, I can't teach. A lot of these older men, they're far too educated for me. in many ways, not just in education, but in their spirituality. But if you're here and you're a young minister, don't be guilty of trying to be accepted by everybody. You know, when I was early in the ministry, I used to read through books like no tomorrow in my studies. I just devour books and then try to get up and regurgitate it. I found it didn't do me much good with the hearts of men. But you know, there were times when I'd get on my knees and just pray, Lord, there are some things that you've allowed me to learn that are somewhere up there. When I get up to preach, please just allow it to go from here to here and out through my mouth. You know, a few years ago, Brother Reynolds taught a lesson out of the fullness of the heart. I hope every time we stand, we are trying to preach the gospel from the fullness of a right heart. What's our goal? Why do we preach? So that Jesus Christ will be exalted. Sometimes we're guilty of being so detached from our sermon, so detached from what we're saying, that yes, we're telling them the truth in word, but where's the spirit of it? You know what separates us from all the... You know, I've been in other churches and preached for a significant amount of time in different types of churches. And do you know what separates the people of God from all the people out there? It's the presence of God with His people and nothing else. You know, we can get up and we can argue, and Jesus here, at times He would get up and He would debate or He would talk to the Pharisees. But you know what separated Jesus from those Pharisees? It was the spirit of what He was saying, not just the word of it. That was the greatest distinction between Him and everybody else. And that is what will distinguish us. And that people will look and hear us. Whenever we have visitors come in, they may listen. I hate when visitors come in and they hear me preach and they walk out just like it was just some old church, just any other old church. What I want is for whenever they're in here, for them to know that the preacher that was preaching from God, and that the people there were the people of God. That's what they need to know. They must know that. You know how much it hurts whenever those people walk out and just never come back. Oh, there's so many times where my heart's been just not right in me when I go to preach. Have a visitor come in this morning and you say, oh Lord, please help me. Please help me this morning. I'll pray very often. Lord, don't let them pay the price for my sins. Lord, help me this morning, not so that I can be lifted up, not so that I can have liberty behind the pulpit, but that so they will hear the truth of God in the right way. You know, when I was a younger minister, when I first started out in the ministry, I had a rough road. It was rough for me. Some people, they can do it better than others, but it was rough. And some of my close friends, they'll make fun of me sometimes for the things that happened in my young ministry, just because I had a difficult time wanting to be accepted by everybody, but accepted by the Lord. I had to give that up. This morning, I hope that we are not striving to be more capable. You know, I don't think this school is here to make us more capable or the appearance of capability. I believe it's here to direct us to one who is able to help every single one of us. You know, Abraham Lincoln made a phenomenal quote right before his second election. He was in Springfield, Illinois, and they asked him to get up and just say a few words. And he said, Lord, with the Lord's help, we cannot fail. And without it, we cannot succeed. When we have the Lord's help, brethren, we cannot fail. When God is truly with us, we cannot fail. But when He's not, we're not going to succeed. No matter how much education, no matter how much good of a speaker we are, we're not going to succeed. I pray for each and every one of us that we will strive to have the heart of a shepherd, because the strength of a warrior won't take down anybody. Appreciate the opportunity for this devotional. I'll turn it back over to Brother Brad.